parenting leave policies have several aims, and often they are key instruments to, first of all, the first types of leave were aimed to protect the health of pregnant parents and birth-giving parents already during pregnancy, and also to protect the health of babies. And of course, to enable parents to care for their child at home during the early stages of the child's life, and thus support not only the health, but also the development of the child and the development of family relationships between parents and children. Today, the aim is especially to promote gender equality, both in the labor market, but also in unpaid care in families and homes, and to support work-family reconciliation, which is an important aspect of well-being. So parenting leave policies also enhance parental well-being and child well-being. So there are many different kinds of aims with these policies. Let's look at the various kinds of leave. This is sometimes a bit confusing for people who are not exactly experts of leave policies, how leave policies in different countries are called. They may have different names in the leave policy network, and also in the COST Action. We've tried to harmonize the concepts a little bit, but there are three main kinds of leave. So maternity leave for birth-giving parents before childbirth and right after childbirth. This is usually when maternity leave takes place. It's a legally protected period of absence from paid employment. So during this leave, the birth-giving parent can recover from childbirth so that their health and the health of the newborn child is protected. And the early mother-child bonding is also supported. A very important thing, of course, is that there is job security. So while one is on leave, there is a job contract still. It doesn't end. It should not end. The next kind of leave is granted to fathers or the other parents. Usually we talk about paternity leave, also legally protected period of absence from paid employment. And often this leave is taken following the birth or adoption of a child. So very soon when the child arrives to the family. And again, it's meant to support the birth-giving parent while she's recovering from giving birth. And of course, also to support the early bonding between the father and the child. And from the start, to encourage shared childcare responsibility between the parents very early on. Okay, then the third kind of leave is often called parental leave. It can have other names, also childcare leave, or in many countries there are different concepts for this. But anyway, the idea is that it's for parents, both parents, birth-giving and the other parent, again, legally protected, but a longer absence usually than the two other kinds of leave from paid employment. And here the aim is more to support work-family reconciliation, share childcare responsibility between parents so both parents can take it, and of course the parent-child relationship again is also supported with the help of this leave. So these are some of the basic things in a nutshell, then we can move to the elements of parental leave design that are, they can be inequality reducing or they can be inequality generating elements. One good, the research has identified 5 main elements of leave policies. First of all, eligibility. Is there a criteria for that you have the right to leave? Sometimes you need to be employed, you need to have a minimum period of employment in other countries, residence in the country is enough. Another element is the duration of leave. So how long is the leave? Maybe sometimes paternity leave can be only 2 days. Sometimes it can be several weeks or even months. Actually, it could be even years. So there's great variation here. Then a very important element, of course, is the compensation. So even if the job is protected, the leave may be paid or unpaid, which is completely makes a big difference. And the payment, the benefit could be also either income related or flat rate. So same for everyone or higher for those with higher income, which also creates inequalities, disparities between parents. And also there might be a ceiling or not. So what is the highest benefit that one can get? Or is there any limit? Of course, there can also be minimum benefits. And then another very important element of leave policies today is quotas. Usually we think of quotas for fathers, but of course there are quotas for mothers as well. And the quota can be either transferable, so that even if it's meant to be your leave, but if it's transferable, then you can give away some of it or all of it to the other parents. Or it can be non-transferable, so use it or lose it kind of quota, which is a much stronger quota. And then the 5th element here is the flexibility of the leave scheme. Leave can be taken only full-time or various forms of part-time, which makes it more flexible. It can also be split into several segments, or sometimes you need to take it as one period only. So there are many different elements that one needs to take into account when we evaluate the leave scheme and the consequences of leave use. Okay, let me now move to some examples. I picked 5 country examples, and you can find, as was mentioned by authorities, you can find a lot of country cases in the Leave Policy Network website, where there is an Excel file actually where you can find all the details from different countries. Here the example is eligibility to parental leave, and you can see that there is one country here that's my country, Finland, where all parents who live in the country are eligible to parental leave benefits and the leave, and there is no employment criteria. Whereas in the other countries, there is employment criteria, sometimes covering employees, often covering also self-employed parents, but there are differences here. And then even if there is an employment criteria, it can be very different in different countries. So sometimes you have to be employed when the child is born. Sometimes there's a length of employment with the employer. And sometimes the contract has to be valid during the whole leave. So many kinds of different criteria in different countries. And other example that I took was the duration and compensation of paternity leave. Again, 5 countries here. You can see that typically paternity leave is something between 2 and 4 weeks, but there are 2 countries where there's a 0 length, Finland and Germany, and that is because it doesn't mean that we wouldn't have any leave for fathers, but as we have a very long parental leave quota for fathers, then the separate paternity leave is not necessary. And again, the benefit, there is a lot of variation of how much of your previous income it compensates, if there is a ceiling, or if it's flat rate like in the UK, and also sometimes there's a mandatory paternity leave, like in France, 1 week after birth, and there are also different regulations if the father is taking this leave simultaneously with the mother or independently. Usually it's simultaneously. Again, a lot of variation, as you can see, but I'm not going to go into details here, just to show this example. So next, I would like to say some words about social inequalities in parenting leave policies and the use of leave. And first of all, the most important inequality, of course, is gender inequality or gender equality, which is a goal, but no country has reached it yet. And here is an example from the OECD database of how to measure gender inequality in the take-up of leave. So there are 2 possibilities shown here. On the one hand, you can look at the recipients, the number of recipients of leave benefits. How many men are receiving leave benefits, how many women, and you don't take into account the length of leave. So it looks like in Luxembourg, it's about 50-50, and Sweden also, whereas many other countries, of course, it's very small amount of men. But then if you look at the gender division of leave benefit days, so the length of leave actually taken, the picture is very different. So now we don't have Luxembourg 50-50. Luxembourg is not included in the countries, I'm sorry, but Sweden is. So again, the share of leave days taken by fathers is relatively high in Sweden as it is in the other Nordic countries, and also Portugal to some extent, but still it looks much more unequal than in the first graph, where you only look at the number of men and number of women. And then, of course, even if gender equality is the main issue often, we should also think about intersectional inequalities, and especially socioeconomic status, such as things like education or occupational status or income. We have seen already in research for decades that this plays a very decisive role in how leave is shared between parents, and there are these dimensions of inequalities within the genders. So there are disparities among women also, according to their socioeconomic status, for example. Also, it's been pointed out that often we only look at the employed parents, who in many countries are the ones who are eligible to leave, but in today's working life, There's more and more diversity, so that it's important to think about leave policy and leave rights of self-employed parents, students, migrants, unemployed parents, and so on, creating another level of inequalities as well. And another diversity is family structure. There are, of course, many different kinds of families, lone parent families, adoptive families, same-sex families, for example, that may not have the same leave rights and same possibilities. And there are inequalities there also among women, among men, and so on. All these intersectionalities are important when we think about how to design future leave policies. Right, then last point that I would like to make here is we've been looking at the knowledge gaps in the COST action. And of course, if we realize there are knowledge gaps, then we may give some recommendations for future research of parenting leave policies and leave take-up. So here are some knowledge gaps. This is not everything. There might be other gaps as well. These concentrate especially on the inequalities part. And as I already said, intersections of several dimensions of inequalities should be looked at, should be analyzed when we look at leave policies, so the leave possibilities, and how leave is used, and what the consequences of leave uptake are. Also, this is quite a challenge to research to include the perspectives of marginalized groups such as migrant workers, refugees, LGBTQ parents, and other marginalized groups that may not always be included in our data sets either. So it's a question of data, of course, often a big challenge. We also think that it would be really interesting to go deeper into family negotiations and the power relations within a family and see how they are related to leave practices in addition to all these socioeconomic aspects, for example. Another area where there is still a lot of research gaps and knowledge gaps is the working life. What are the managerial attitudes, human relations departments, attitudes and practices that are related to parenting leave in various kinds of work organizations, and also the role of trade unions here. So how things are organized, what are the attitudes? Is there support or are there obstacles in working life for parents' possibilities to take leave, both mothers and fathers? And well-being, another interesting topic where we also have knowledge gaps of how parenting leave systems impact overall well-being, individual well-being and family well-being, as well as specific well-being components that could be like job satisfaction, life satisfaction, relationship satisfaction, mental health, and such things. And last but not least, child well-being. What does parenting leave mean for child well-being in the short term, during the leave, medium term, and long-term effects? Would be really interesting to have more research on this. So this was a quick introduction to the themes of this online course, to give you some overview of the topic. Thank you very much.